Hey now, Brawlers, it's time for another Board Game Brawl review with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com.
Today we're going to take a look at Mining Maniac from X-Axis Productions. This is a speculation game. Each player takes control of a mining company. You are trying to go down to the mines, take asset cards, which are different resources, gems, coal, copper, and gold, and have those cards and then be able to sell them. Now, in order to actually mine, you're going to need workers, and when you go to sell them, you want to make sure that you're selling them for the best price possible because the market is going to be constantly fluctuating. You also have some other variables, like there could be incidents that happen at the mine every round. You also have different characters you're going to take control of every round that give you different bonuses or potentially give other players penalties. So while there is quite a bit going on there, essentially what this is buying and selling goods, trying to get the most money possible by the end of the game. Let's go ahead and take a brief look at how the game is played, then we're going to come back. I'll let you know what I think. Alright, I'm going to give you a very brief overview of Mining Maniac. This is a competitive game for 2 to 6 players. You play the heads of mining companies and you are trying to make the most money possible. You're going to do that by mining different resource cards of different precious minerals and then selling them on the market, hopefully for the best price possible, but the market is going to be constantly fluctuating. So at the start of the game, each player is going to take a reference card. You're going to get $4 from the bank. Remember, money is the goal here. You're also going to take workers. These cylinders, annoying cylinders, represent your workers. You're going to set up the game board. You're going to randomize these money cards that have 2 1s, 2 2s, and a $3. You'll randomize those on the underneath each of those different types of special resources. That tells you, well, these 4 will tell you what those goods are going to be worth each particular round, and then you can see in the futures what that's going to be next, because at the start of every round you're going to rotate these, so they're all going to move to the left, and then whatever's in the last spot is going to flip back around down and become the next future spot. You'll also take the deck of resource cards and make a 3x3 grid. This is the mine, essentially. This is where you're going to try to get those different resource cards, and here I'll show you a few of those now. These are the resource cards that are in the game. They all have different amounts of actual minerals on them for each type that they have. So for instance, this copper card has 4 different instances of copper, and this is how many workers you need to spend in order to take this card. There's gems, there's a 5 spot for gems, 2 for coal, there's a 1 of gold, and then 3 of, I have another copper there for some reason. So those are just what the resource cards look like. And you'll have a 3x3 of those that are always going to start face down. So at the start of every round of play, the first thing you're going to do is the market rotation, which I just described, where you're going to move the prices around. And then you're going to do the character selection. So you're going to have these character cards. There's 9 different cards in the game. And depending on the number of players, you're going to mill out a certain number of these cards randomly. So you'll shuffle these up, and let's say this is a 5-player game. I'm going to take 2 cards out at random unseen. So there's imperfect information because you're not going to know which roles are still in play or not. You're going to randomly select 1 player as a start player, and whoever has a start player, one of their few duties is just that they get to choose the character card that they want first. So what you're going to do is you're going to draft these. So get the rest of the cards, you're going to choose one that you want, pass it to the next player, and every player that comes after them has less and less information because they know less and less of the cards that are actually going to be in play amongst the other players. Now, to describe what those cards do, let me go ahead and show you. There's 2 different important things here. One is their rank and their character special ability. So let me see if I can focus in a bit more here. So the rank is important because after everyone has drafted their card, whoever is the start player is going to start calling out numbers starting with 1. This is similar to the game Citadels if you've played that. So you'll say 1. Okay, who's got the 1 cards? Anyone have the 1? Okay, that character flips it over. Then they're going to take their turn. So, and so on until you get all the way down to 9, or every other player has taken their turn. So the market controller, his special ability, he gets to actually manipulate a couple of the prices in the marketplace and move them around, but if he does that, he is not allowed to sell those particular goods. The corporate spy can sabotage, and what that means is that he can call out another character number, another character rank that has not been chosen yet, which obviously the only one that he could not choose would be 1, but also the 9 card, which is immune to sabotage, the security guard. But he'll call out that number, and if that number actually comes up, like let's say he calls out a 4 and someone actually did select the 4, that player that they chose, that the corporate spy chose, is going to have to lose 1 of the resource cards that they had gathered from a previous round that they had not yet sold. Then you have the Contagious Worker, which is another type of sabotage card, but this one is going to make whoever they choose lose half of their workers, those yellow cylinders, rounded up. The trader gets an extra sell action each round. You normally only get 2 actions that must be different, so you can only do 1 sell, but this gives you an extra action that must be sell. The project manager is allowed to split the workers that he sends out. Normally you can only send workers to 1 card and therefore gain 1 card from the mine, but the project manager lets you split your workers and potentially take 2 cards. The recruiter lets you get an extra free worker at the start of your turn. The adventurer can send 3 workers to explore a face down card. Normally you can only explore a face up card, and you have to use whatever workers that they're telling you to use on the card. Then you have the fortune teller. The fortune teller can actually peek at the top card of the incident deck, which I haven't gotten to yet, and decide whether to keep that card on top or put it on the bottom of the deck, and then they're the only person that knows what the next card might potentially be. And then, like I already said, the security card is only ability, aside from going last, is that they are immune to any type of sabotage. Now, once every player has chosen their character card, before the first player starts yelling out the numbers, an unexpected incident occurs. Now, there are 12 rounds in the game, and the incident deck is going to serve as a timer for the game as well. So you're going to have, there's a bunch of different incident cards, but you only randomly choose 12 without looking at them at the start and put them in face down next to the board. That's going to serve as both the timer for the game and also the random incidents that come out. So here's some examples of the incidents, and an incident will stay in play. It may only have 1 effect, but if it's a recurring effect, it stays in play until the next incident card is drawn. So here's some examples. Some of these, there's multiple different types. They just affect different types of resources. So for instance, there's multiple market adjustment cards, which are going to affect different resources. So this one increases the price of copper by 1 and decreases the price of gems by 1. And by the way, I didn't make this clear before, but you can actually move the cards up and down on the board to show plus or minus 1, depending on how the market is going to fluctuate. That's an easy way to remind yourself of that. Just like that, there's underestimation cards for each of the different resources. If this is in play, then whenever someone takes, in this particular instance, a coal card, you put one of these little mineral tokens on it, and it counts as an extra instance of that resource on the card. So if your card was normally giving you 2 coal, it would give you 3. There's a volunteer worker and also a negative version of this. This one lets you get cards from the top row for 1 worker less, but there's another card that makes you get ones from the bottom row for 1 worker more. Market Chaos makes you immediately shuffle up and randomize all the market prices. The eco-preservation tax is going to make, it basically punishes rich people. For every $5 that, whoever has the most money, for every $5 that they have to give $1 back to the bank. If players are tied, they both have to do it, or more than 2 have to do it. There's cards that will deny players certain actions. So if the market is closed, for example, every player cannot sell this round, which can be pretty bad. And then one of the biggest bombs, the industrial accident. This is going to essentially destroy a particular type of resource, in this case coal. Any people that still have these resources in front of them, not in the mine, but in front of them that they haven't sold yet, they're instantly destroyed and are removed from the game, put into the discard pile, which can be really devastating. So you'll flip over that incident card after you've picked your character cards. So you'll pick your character cards first before you know what's going to happen to you. Then the start player is going to start yelling out the numbers, and people are going to take their turns. Now, when it's your turn, you'll do the effect of your character card first. Then you're going to explore the mine. Exploring the mine is not an action. It's just something you have to do. You're going to roll the 6-sided die, and whatever number comes up determines what row or column, rows being 1, 2, 3, columns being 4, 5, 6, is going to be revealed. So I rolled a 1 here, which means that I have to flip over these 3 cards. So these I have information on, and I can, unless I have that particular special character card, I can only mine cards that are flipped face up. So for instance, here we have copper, gold, and another copper. So once I do the exploring, then I get my 2 actions. I have 3 different types of actions I can take, but only 2 action points, essentially, to spend. So one of those is hiring workers. I start the game with 2, but if I want to hire more workers, I need to spend $1 for every worker I want to hire. I can only hire 4 at a time, and I can have a maximum of 8 in front of me. Now, after I get done hiring my workers, then what I can do is, another type of action I can do is actually sending them out to the mine to work. So like I said before, every card tells you how many workers you need to spend in order to mine that card. So for instance, if I wanted this copper, I'd have to spend these 2, and I would take the copper card and I would put it in front of me. And then it immediately gets replaced from the deck, but that card stays face down until someone else rolls that number and would reveal that card. Now, the last type of action you can take is selling, which you should probably understand how that works at this point. I can sell every single instance of one type of resource for one selling action. So if I choose to sell copper, I can sell every copper card I have. If I only have this one, therefore I'm selling 3 types of copper, or 3 instances of copper for $2. That's what the market price is now. I would get $6 from the bank. If I happen to have both of these copper cards, I can sell them both for a total of 6 times 2 is 12. And of course, incident cards may make that price rise or fluctuate. And even though I have 2 different actions, I can only take a type of action once. So I can't sell twice, I can't mine twice, and so on. But once I've used my 2 actions, or 3 if I have that particular character card, then the start player is going to yell out the next number, and then that player is going to take their turn, and so on. Then you're going to start a new round. The first player card is going to go to the left of whoever had the number 1 character card, and then you're going to do it all over again. You're going to do this 12 times, and whoever has the most money at the end of those 12 rounds is going to be the winner. Now, let's get to my final thoughts. Now, theming components, there's really no theme to the game. I mean, most market speculation games don't feel very thematic to me anyways, at least the ones that I've played. I mean, this could have been trading stocks. It could have been trading pork futures. It could have been, but it turned out to just be being in a mine and grabbing resource cards. I never felt like I was the big corporate CEO of a mining company, or that I was sending workers potentially down to their death. Sure, their contracts expire. That's why I can't use them again next round. But you know, it's fine. I can forgive it its theme. As far as the components and the design, it looks okay. I mean, I like the artwork, and the design is very clean. The rule book is very well written, if I want to lump that into this section of the review. And the only thing I really complain about as far as the physical components would be the discs, or I'm sorry, the cylinders used for the workers. Cylinders, bad idea. I don't know why people use cylinders. They just roll everywhere. Better would have been, even flat discs would have been better, the meeples. I mean, meeples would have been an obvious choice, but okay, that's the one major gripe I would say. But everything else, as far as the cards and the artwork and the board, looks clean and nice. It's pretty good. As far as the gameplay goes, there's a lot of interesting elements here. I like the whole idea of passing the different character cards around. As someone in my game pointed out, it was comparable to Citadels in a way, a very lighter version of Citadels, just that section of the game, because you take a card, you mill a couple out so you have imperfect information, then you take a card, and then you potentially can sabotage people with a couple of the different cards, calling out numbers as you resolve them, and try to screw those people over by making them get rid of asset cards or making them get rid of workers. So yeah, that whole section of the game, and then it leads into the mining phase. First you explore, you flip over cards. That's an interesting little bit of theme they put there, where only certain veins of ore are flipped up each turn, and you only have those to choose from unless you take one of the specific character cards. And then you go into actually trying to acquire those, selling them. Okay, that's all pretty streamlined, that all is pretty fluid, and it's very easy to understand, and it goes fast when you get to that point. The problem that I have with the game is that whole character card phase. Even though it may seem very interesting, it is the dullest and longest part of the game, and it drags most of the game down. That is the biggest chunk of time you will be taking during this entire game, is dispensing those character cards, taking the time to choose them, and then moving on, calling them out. That is like almost the entirety of the game, when really what the game should be is the worker, well, I wouldn't call it worker placement, but the resource management of spending your workers to get these resource cards, taking them, selling them. That probably should have been the part of the game that was fleshed out and made the major part of the game. Instead, most of your time, 80% of your time, is just passing these cards around and then using their abilities. And a lot of the time, there's a couple of them that are clearly better than the others. If you really, really want to go first, you take the 1 card. If you don't care that much, you're probably going to end up taking the guy that gives you the extra sell action, or even the woman that gives you the extra worker action. Doing the sabotage action, if it's even in play, it's okay. But first off, most of the time you target someone with it and they probably don't even have an asset card in front of them. Or if you're hitting them with the Contagious Worker, they may not even have workers anymore, because you try to use everything you can in one go. But even if they do, so what? You haven't really gained anything from that. So a lot of times you get a hand of cards and it's just like, well, I'm picking the least bad out of these options. But you end up sitting there looking at them anyways because you want to win. So you're taking time analyzing your options, but it's really a false choice. There's not a lot going on in that section of the game, but it certainly feels like there is. When you get into the actual gameplay, it's fine. I mean, as far as what you can do on your turn, like I said, it's very fluid and streamlined. The issue is it's completely random and chaotic because of those incident cards. And, you know, there is randomness from the character cards as well, but they can't do too much to you. Unless you really had your heart set on selling a bunch of stuff for like $3 and someone uses the one card to move things around, it's not the other players you need to worry about so much. It is their incident deck, which could completely devastate you. You could be like, okay, this round got me a couple of diamond cards. I'm going to make a big profit next round. Maybe I won't make a huge profit, but I can at least sell them for something. No problem. Flip over an incident card, boom, all diamond reserves are destroyed. Or randomly shuffle up all the cards together and put them back out. And it's just so random from round to round what is going to be worth anything. So yes, you can plan ahead. You can speculate, okay, this is going to be worth this next round because the cards rotate, but you still cannot count on that actually being the case. So it's almost like there's no there is no forward planning in this game. You are really going from round to round, making the best choice that you can, buying the best, most obvious thing that you can, and maybe selling it, hopefully, because you don't want to carry cards over from round to round because you might get totally screwed, whereas the other players who were able to buy and sell in the same rounds are going to be totally fine. They don't have to worry about those types of things. So that is a very weird and awkward part of the game. And when you add that together with the length of the character phase, the game is just way too long. There's 12 rounds in the game, and I have to tell you, the couple of games that we've played, we both times got to about round 6, and people were like, how much time is left in this game? It just seems like it goes on forever for the amount of content that is here. It is not deep enough deep and complex and richly strategic enough to sustain the amount of game time that is present in the game. It's a very, very weird thing that I've encountered in other games before where they just don't know how to end it. But even saying that, it's odd because someone said, well, why don't we just cut out a number of round cards? And it's like, well, we could do that, but if we end that right now, the person that's going to win is the person who just had an incredibly lucky stroke of fortune, who was able to sell 8 diamonds just because there happened to be 2 cards out there worth a total of 8 diamonds that could be sold for $3, just happened to be this round, and they made a fortune doing it. That is how swingy this game is, and I really felt like at some point, anyone could have been ahead. Even someone who was far behind could have just skyrocketed up on the next round because of just being in the right place at the right time or having the cards in the right place at the right time. While at the same time, if you get totally screwed for too long, there is a chance that a couple of players who just get consistently lucky will just be, it's not necessarily rich gets richer, but they just have such a leg up on you because of randomness that there's no chance that you'll ever catch up to them. So there's this weird swingy thing to the game. It contradicts itself at times. I don't know. If you haven't gotten the impression yet, I just don't care for this game. It just could have been, there's interesting aspects to it. I do like the idea of passing the cards around, but it's too long. The market speculation feels very basic and simple, but it's also completely random, and it doesn't leave a lot of room for strategy or forward planning. And ultimately, the game overall is just too long and clunky. So I wish I could give a better review because I like the graphic design of it, I like the idea of it, but it just didn't work for me. That is Mining Maniac from X-Axis Productions.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.